Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm Denny Deutsch-Marshall, rabbinical student, and I'm joining Cantor Julie this evening while Rabbi Alfie is on sabbatical. So welcome to everyone here tonight in the synagogue and to all of those of you at home. We are taught that while our ancestors were wandering in the desert after escaping Egypt, they carried the presence of God with them in the Mishkan, the sanctuary that they built. We no longer have an actual Mishkan or sanctuary to travel with us throughout our lives, through these journeys we are on. But Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, Zikrona Livracha, wrote that Shabbat is our sanctuary. It is a sanctuary in time. Shabbat is the time of week that we stop and take a breath. For 25 hours, we let go of our work in the world. We center ourselves in our Shabbat prayers and songs and in community, and we allow ourselves to feel the divine presence with us. This is our Mishkan. This is our sanctuary. And so we begin together in song.
I hope so. Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Hinei ma tov u'manayim. 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 Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad.
One of the better-known rituals that developed in the mystical circle of the 15th century Safat was that of Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalah means to receive, and Kabbalat Shabbat was a beautiful Shabbat reception ceremony. The ceremony, based on the Jewish tradition that Shabbat is likened to a queen, welcomes her arrival with song and prayer prior to beginning the evening service. And the ultimate Kabbalat Shabbat song that has remained part of our tradition today is Lecha Dodi, where we call out in joy to welcome the Sabbath bride. So please join us in Lecha Dodi on page 138. We will be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
You know, Denny, I always want to mix that up, just to see if anybody would catch it, you know? Okay.
So verses 1, 4, 7, and just follow along.
La 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 lecha dodi, la 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 likrat kalan, la 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 penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela, shamor vezachor, beribur echad. Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad, L'Shem U'Tiferet, Ve'Litchila, La 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 לך דודי la 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 לקראת כלה la 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 פני שבת תקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי הנה כל הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה יאי לי לי לה 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 לך דודי לה 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 לקראת כלה לה 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 פני שבת תקבלה התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לה 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 לך דודי לה 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 לקראת כלה לה 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 פני שבת תקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בלה גם בשמחה ובצונה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה la 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 לך דודי la 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 לקראת כלה la 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 פני שבת תקבלה
I really want to thank you for that.
We were what Denny means is that we were talking about how we choose music. What do we choose? What melody? And somebody said, "Could you do that because I need it tonight?" And it does. It feels good,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It feels good.
I feel like the Sabbath Bride
Right.
definitely heard it.
And I hope the one who needs it received it, and I hope all of you received it as well. We bring Shabbat in with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, which can be found on page 120. And I'd like to invite my husband Steve up to light the candles with me. But we begin first with Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyoni Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bokem l'shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyoni Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Amen. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And our blessings give us strength and make our visions clear. And our blessings give us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Baruch Hu, dear one, Shekhinah, holy name. When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. And we turn together to page 146 and rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. Out of deep center, night passes through. Gates open, seasons change. Stars swirl on their eternal pathways through the light. Light to dark to light spins the glorious heavenly array. This too is the name of Yud-He Vav-He, living and eternal until the end of time. A fountain of blessing are you, endless one, who blends the light of evening. Baruch Ataya Hama'ariv Aravim. And we will begin with Ahavat Olam on page 150 and continue to the Shema on page 152.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shofeinu u'b'kumenu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nitzmach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem neged yomam v'layla Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Love before the Shema and love after the Shema. God's love before and our love for God after. Together on page 154. Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtatam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohim asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohim.
Amen. Please join me on page 157 at the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi chamocha.
Mi chamocha boilim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar bakodesh. Nora tehilot osei felet. Nora tehilot osei felet. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever had. Redemption song. Malchutecha ra'u banecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze'eli anu be'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever had. Redemption song, redemption song, redemption song. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Shemo.
גאל ישראל.
The night can be scary. Darkness brings fear, and particularly in difficult and troubling times, the narrow straits of Egypt that we find ourselves in at this time, our thoughts can run away with themselves in the night, especially when so many of us are alone with COVID, alone because things have happened to those we love in our lives. So at these times, we turn to the divine for protection, and we ask to be sheltered under her wings. Page 160, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'amideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'amideinu malkeinu Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'amideinu malkeinu l'chaim.
When we sing or chant the Vishamru, which you'll find on page 162, we're making a commitment, a recommitment every time to that brit, to that covenant that we have with God. And we're saying, we are here and we will stand steady. And we will never, never forget or let go of Shabbat.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי Shabbat vayinachash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם לדורותם ברית עולם.
We stand and we turn to page 164 for the tefillah. And together,
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yadi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol Vezocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Geula Lifnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mekayei Hakol Atah Rav Le'oshia Morid Atah Mekakel Chaim Bechesed Mekayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Holim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishanei Afar Mikamocha Ba'gevurot Umidom Elach Melech Memit Umekayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah le'achayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mekayeh hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh U'kadoshim b'kol yom Yehallelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
please be seated or remain standing as is your custom. For the prayers of your heart, you can read on pages 170 to 180, or if you wish, just close your eyes and focus on your own silent prayers of your heart.
lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri vegoali Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri vegoali Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer. You ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi. You ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha.
At this time, we turn our thoughts and prayers to those friends or loved ones who are ill or suffering. We also pray for all of those that we do not know, those we hear about, those we read about, who are suffering in body or soul. We pray for those who are suffering from oppression and from war and from solitude and mental illness. We hold them all in our hearts as we turn to page 371 for the Mishaberach.
For all those in need, refuah shlema. May the one who blessed our fathers, may the one who blessed our mothers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer. Bless all those in need, refuah shlema.
Shabbat Shalom. I am so blessed and honored to be here with you, Cantor Julie. Every chant, every song she sings just fills me with what I'm going to talk about tonight. So I'll just begin. Psalm 27 reads, Kaveh el Hashem, hazak v'yametz libecha v'kaveh el Hashem. Hope in God, with strength and courage in your heart, hope in God. Last Sunday was the 17th of the Hebrew month of Tammuz. The 17th of Tammuz is a fast day in our tradition, and it initiates a 3-week period of mourning leading to Tisha B'Av, which is the day that marks the destruction of both the first and the second temples in Jerusalem in 586 BCE and in 70 CE. These 3 weeks, which we are in now, are also known in Hebrew as Bein HaMetzarim, or between the narrow straits. And this is known as the saddest period in the Jewish calendar. According to our tradition, 4 significant events occurred on the 17th of Tammuz, including the shattering of the first tablets of law when Moses returns from Mount Sinai to see the Israelites worshiping the golden calf, and the burning of a Torah by the Roman military leader Apostomus during the temple destruction of 70 CE. These events pale, however, in comparison to the events that are purported to have occurred throughout Jewish history on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. The list of these events are as follows. In biblical times, the spies returned with evil reports of the land of Israel. The Jewish people cried in despair and gave up hope, and thereby wandered the desert for 40 years. In 586 BCE, the first temple was destroyed. About 100,000 Jews were killed, and the remaining tribes were exiled to Babylon and Persia. In 70 CE, the second temple was destroyed. Over 2.5 million Jews died due to war, famine, and disease, and over 200,000 Jews were exiled or sold into slavery. In 135 CE, the Bar Kokhba revolt was crushed with over 100,000 Jews killed. The Romans plowed over the site of the temple and began the building of a pagan city. 900 years later, in 1095, the First Crusade was declared, which resulted in the death of over 10,000 Jews in the first month, ultimately obliterating many Jewish communities in the Rhineland and France. In 1290, the Jews were expelled from England amidst pogroms. In 1492, during the Inquisition, the Jews from Spain and Portugal were expelled. On the morning of Tisha B'Av, August 1st, 1914, Germany declared war on Russia. That afternoon, Russia declared war on Germany and on its own Jewish population, which resulted in the first 20th century genocide with more than 300,000 Jewish civilian deaths. On Tisha B'Av in 1942, the deportations from the Warsaw Ghetto to Treblinka concentration camp began, and Himmler received formal approval from the Nazis to proceed with the final solution, in which 1/3 of all living Jews died. And on this day, in 1994, the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires, Argentina, was bombed, killing 86 people and wounding 300 others. This 3-week period of mourning has been observed by the Jewish people for over 2,000 years. As I sat down to write this drash, I asked myself, why do we do this? Why do we remember? Why do we mourn? Is there something we can learn from this custom to help us in the dark and frightening time we are in today? And the answer that arose within me is yes. Through all the awful things that have befallen our people, we have survived. As Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory said, we as a people found strength in Tisha B'Av. The strength we found was hope, tikvah. We as a people never gave up hope. Hope has given us the ability to go on time and time again in face of what the rabbis called sinat chinam, or causeless hatred, hatred based on inner fear and prejudice. Hope has given us the ability to respond to sinat chinam with acts of ahavat chinam, or unbounded love. I know I am not the only one here this evening who finds the recent events in our country and the world devastating. The war in Ukraine and violence in many parts of the world, recent decisions by the United States Supreme Court threatening our freedoms and our lives, the proliferation of hate groups, the multiple mass shootings, the conscious unwillingness to recognize and address climate change, and more. Part of me wants to put my head under a blanket and pretend none of this exists, focusing only on my own small world. Part of me fears if I stay present and aware, I will fall into despair and helplessness. But as a savta, a grandmother of 3 young children who very much cares what kind of world my grandchildren will inherit, I cannot succumb to either of these choices. So I look to Judaism, to our history, our rituals, and my connection with God for another way, and it is there I find hope. Rabbi Sacks writes, Western civilization is the product of 2 cultures, ancient Greece and ancient Israel. The Greeks believed in fate, the future determined by the past. Jews believed in freedom, that there is no evil decree that cannot be averted. The Greeks gave the world the concept of tragedy. Jews gave it the idea of hope. Throughout history, when human beings have sought hope, they have found it in the Jewish story. Judaism is the voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. In 70 CE, the Second Temple was destroyed and we were sent into exile. For almost 2,000 years, despite all the calamities that befell us, we affirmed yearly, Shana Haba'a b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, which eventually became a reality. We never gave up hope, and that fact is embedded in the name of the Israeli national anthem, Ha-Tikvah. What is hope? Hope is not blind optimism, the belief that everything will be okay. Hope is not blind faith, the belief that a literal Messiah will arrive and fix everything in the world. So what is hope? According to Rabbi Sacks, hope is belief in a future tense. He writes, only beings who can imagine the world other than it is are capable of freedom. And if we are free, the future is open and dependent on us. We know the beginning of our story, but not the end. This is why, in our Torah, as God is about to take the Israelites from slavery to freedom, God's name becomes Yud-He Vav-He. I will be what I will be. To be a Jew, says Rabbi Sacks, is to be an agent of hope in a world threatened by despair. With hope, we draw strength to confront not only our personal challenges, but the greater communal challenges we face today. And we turn to our teachings to receive messages of hope. The prophets of doom were also our prophets of hope. In the first chapter in Isaiah, Isaiah proclaims doom upon Jerusalem. And in the very next chapter, he says his most famous words of hope that we continue to aspire to today. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And in chapter 11, Isaiah envisions a world where the wolf shall lie down with the lamb, and all beings will live in peace together. In the book of Jeremiah, we see a similar juxtaposition between the threat of destruction and an aspiration of a better future. In chapter 31, it reads, V'yesh tikva la'acharitecha na'um Adonai, and there is hope for your future, exclaims God. And just a few verses later, God declares that only if the sun and the moon and the stars no longer exist, only then would the people of Israel cease to be. In the Talmud, we read that when the sages were leaving the study hall, they were in the habit of saying the following blessing. May you see good in the world in your lifetime, and may your end be to life in the world to come. May your heart meditate understanding, and your mouth speak wisdom, and your tongue whisper with praise. And may your hope be sustained for many generations. How do we find and sustain hope, especially in difficult times? For some, it is through Jewish rituals such as Tisha B'Av, which reminds us of an entire people's ability to survive in spite of unbelievable odds. For others, it is a spiritual discipline to maintain hope. Rabbi Yoel Klick of blessed memory wrote, "The feeling of hope arises out of the experience of the divine presence. In the light of her presence, we come to realize that compassion and love are the true basis of God's interaction with our world. This link acts as a ray of light that illuminates our inner reality, even if there is darkness in our outer world." There are times when we are plunged into depths of despair, when everything looks impossible. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov teaches that at times like these, we need to search out one part of our life that is right. Discovering this spark of goodness, he declares, is the key to awakening a feeling of hope in our hearts. No matter how difficult our situation may appear, there's always one positive point we can find. In moments of darkness in the world, Rabbi Nachman says, we need to hold on to this perspective, not only about ourselves, but with regard to the rest of humanity. Hope is not just the opposite of despair, it is the antidote. If we touch on the deep place inside us where God dwells, then we will not fear the way ahead. For others, the way to hope is through holy action, by reaching out with ahavat chinat, unbounded love, and helping another. And no action is too small. This past week, I was talking with one of our synagogue members who is at the forefront of our synagogue's joint effort with HIAS to resettle refugees here in Sacramento. She mentioned how inspired she felt when she and others in the synagogue helped one Ukrainian refugee family to access a place to live and all they needed to start their lives here. But then her face dropped and she remarked, "It seems such a small act in light of all the people who have been subjected to cruelty in this war." After a beat, we both quoted Talmud together. Whoever saves one life saves the whole world. And in that moment, I saw her face light up with hope. These 3 weeks of mourning are a gift to us. They are an opportunity to strengthen ourselves and renew our hope. Rabbi Yael Levy just shared a radical practice called praying with the news to use for these 3 weeks. She suggests that we take this opportunity to reflect on the hatred in our hearts. And each time we read or listen to a news report that enrages us, we instead turn our attention to those being hurt, harmed, or damaged by what is occurring and pray for their healing and strength and well-being. By doing so, she says, we open ourselves to feelings of sadness and pain, and at the same time, we turn our attention toward connection, care, and compassion. Praying with the news helps us to bear witness to the devastation and mayhem while keeping our hearts soft and our minds clear. It can fill us with hope and strengthen us so we are better able to see how we can and do participate in the mending and healing of our world. Whether it is through observance of ritual, immersion into the spirituality and holy texts of Judaism, or by taking holy action and spreading ahavat chinam, or by taking in the incredible chants and prayers that are offered here by our cantor. My Shabbat wish for all of you is that you find hope during this time as we approach Tisha B'Av. Shabbat Shalom. So our president, is there a board member here tonight? Is there a board member out there? No? No? Okay. Then I guess I will read the announcements. I thought I was going to get out in this one. Okay. Following services tonight, we will have an oneg hosted by Congregation B'nai Israel. And tomorrow, at 9:30 a.m., we have Torah study on Zoom with Byron Miller. And we have registration is open for the final session of Camp Shalanu. This Tuesday, the Women of B'nai Israel Jonas Goldman Judaica gift shop will be open for summer shopping. Right, Jane? Thank you. From 2 to 5 p.m. And she wants you to know that the shop is featuring a new assortment of tali tote in a variety of gorgeous colors and fabrics. Don't miss it. And CBI's Adult B'nai Mitzvah class is back. So if you're a CBI member and you have never had a bat or a bar or a B mitzvah in your youth for whatever reason, this journey is open for you. This program begins on Thursday, September 8th. Registration is now open. And next Friday, July 29th, myself and Steve and Miriam Jaffe Block, part of our Kavanah Shabbat team, will be leading Shabbat services in the evening and also in the morning. So join us either in the evening at the regular time or in the morning, and it can be on Zoom as well. And please visit the website and the How to Show for all the latest details and all the other programs and wonderful things we have going on. Good enough. And so, together, let's turn to the Aleinu on page 586 and bottom of 586 and 591.
Please rise.
And please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. So at this time, we turn our thoughts to those who we have lost recently. And although we do not say Kaddish for someone until they're buried, we would like to recognize the recent passing of Ralph Lubick, the husband of Laura Choate. And we also record with sorrow the passing of Joseph Miguel, the beloved grandfather of Benjamin Stewart, and Kenneth Mapson, the beloved father of Victoria Mapson. May their memory be a blessing. We also turn our thoughts to those that we have lost at this time in years past. And we remember Anna Baer, Leonard Bloom, Sidney Brash, Abe Cohen, Louis Cahotes, Armand Cahotes, Harry Copeland, Rochelle Dittel, Francis Edwards, Gertrude Felderstein, Bert Ginsberg, Michael Grossman, David Hammer, Ronald Haskell, Michael Hirsch, Randy Kahn, Ellen Kessler, Carlene Kaufman, Rodney Kensworth, Richard Kroc, Florence Kutzin, Jason Landry, Irving Lefkowitz, Janice Levin, Fanny Levinson, Frida Levy, Miriam Lipschultz, Tom Merritt, Sherman Eugene Miller, Joseph Mizzi, Sam Neft, George Rosenblatt, Leon Salter, Charlie Salzberg, Helen Stambulka, Janeth Steinhardt, Henry Stern, Ralph Trawick, Jack Ballin, Yonim Wathaka, Donald Weckstein, and Lieslotte Wertheimer. And if there are names of loved ones that are not on this list that you are here to say Kaddish for and to remember tonight, please say their names out loud as my eyes meet yours. Thank you. Thank you.
Sylvia Behrman.
Thank you. If you are here to say Kaddish this evening, please stand. And together as a community, we say these words, Hamakom Yenechem Etchem Betok Sha'ar Avalei Zion V'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And we stand as a community to support those and also to say Kaddish for those that do not have anyone to say Kaddish for them. And the Kaddish can be found on page 598. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma devra hirute v'yamlik malchute, v'hayachon uv'yomechon uv'haye dekol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'yimru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam olmei omaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalau shemei dekudisha barihu. Le'ela minko birhata v'shirhata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Tamiran be'ama v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shamaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'akol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'akol Yisrael ve'akol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. And you may be seated. And I think we have an inspiring closing song. And then Kiddush, Motzi, and then out in the courtyard for the real thing.
So I was actually thinking, Denny, while you were giving your beautiful drush about hope, and one of the things that always brings me hope is when we come together. You can feel very alone. And then I see the us. And somehow I feel that someone will have an idea that I don't have. And more than one brain is better than just mine. And that helps me to feel that it will be better. It will be okay. So let's close tonight with Aniva Ata. You and I will change the world together. Page 652.
Beautiful.
אני ואתה נשנה את העולם. אני ואתה אז יבואו כבר כולם. אמרו את זה קודם, לפניי זה לא משנה. אני ואתה נשנה את העולם. אני ואתה ננסה מההתחלה. יהיה לנו רע, אין דבר, זה לא נורא. אמרו את זה קודם, לפניי זה לא משנה. אני ואתה נשנה את העולם.
That was beautiful. Thank you. And if you didn't turn to it, you and I will change the world. It might be difficult, but it doesn't matter.
I love that. It's very Israeli. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yes.
You're ready for the oneg.
Oh, yes.
I like that. I like the enthusiasm. Being ready for the oneg is really, I won't make you actually raise your hands, but I will bet a lot of people come for the oneg.
Well,
Yes.
Dean has promised us some really good wine
Well,
out
Dean,
there.
yeah, Dean always has something wonderful up his sleeve. So if you would please join me, I say this too many weeks, but on page 123, but I so miss our voices together on the bima. There's something wonderful about that surround sound feeling. So do your best. I'll hold the wine and you hold your cups. I love when you do that, actually, really do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon milchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom tekino lemikra kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'karta Veltanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ava uvratzon hinhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Ooh, that's actually really good. I know. Dean is a blessing in many, many ways, and he always treats us very well. It's lovely. The stunt fella.
The real one's outside.
Yes. Oh, it's
It's like a brick.
yeah, it's getting ripe. It's it's almost a good melon. Yes, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
B'te'avon.
B'te'avon. See you in the courtyard.